Should pop up on your screen. Here we go.
Mhm.
I think we're good
Okay.
now, Patty.
All right, this is Patty Silva, Council Chair. We are going to call the meeting to order July 18th, 2024. Just a reminder, if you're going to speak, please just say your name and your title, council member, or if you're a member of the public, whatever you call yourself. So welcome, everybody. Hope everyone's been staying cool. I wanted to give an opportunity for anybody from the public if they'd like to say anything to the council or share anything. Are there any members of the public? I don't see any. All right, we're going to move on. So first is the June meeting minutes, which we are now into that new format where there is a recording of our meeting and a transcript, which I don't know if anybody had a chance to look through it yet, but I had a few laughs. I know transcription is not perfect, but if you want to lighten your mood a little bit, I mean, obviously it doesn't do well for, the authenticity of what we're saying, but the video recording is there for that. So those will be posted on our page on the DDS website. So that being said, I was just looking through our bylaws to see what we required as far as posting minutes and that sort of thing. And I did go ahead and send the bylaws to everybody just so you would have a copy to refer to if you wanted to. But on page 1 and 2, it talks about, let's see here, Article 3. There's the meeting of the minutes. Let's see. But and also in our policies, it states under 4A that the minutes of the Council on Developmental Services meetings shall be available on the DDS website. So my thought was that maybe we could form a subcommittee just to take a look at these and go through them just to make sure that they are updated to reflect what we're going to be doing now as far as posting the meeting minutes and video. So I don't see that this would be anything really time consuming. I think it's pretty simple. Jordan, you have your hand up? You have to unmute.
Jordan Sheff, DDS Commissioner, and I'll try and be good about that tonight. There was one other thing that when Wes and I were talking about processing the minutes and recording, if people can remember when not speaking, to mute their microphone because the transcription service picks up the background noise and makes it a little muddier to decipher. The other thing I want to remind whoever might participate in that group, as far as minutes are concerned, the only thing required to be recorded in minutes, and we will continue to do so separately from the transcription and video, is a list of attendees and any official votes that are taken during the meeting, aside from commencing and adjourning. So that will still get posted as the minutes, but it will not reflect, the minutes won't be the full conversation. That the video and the transcription will lend themselves to that. That was the intent. So when you're talking about whether or not a bylaw change is made, and I don't know if one is or not, that as I understand minutes, that's all that's required: attendance and official action, records of votes on official action. Thank you. Now you're muted, Patty.
Okay, Patty Silva, Council Chair. Kevin Bronson, you have your hand up?
Yeah, Kevin Bronson, DDS. Patty, I saw the email. I didn't get a chance to look at what you shared around, but I'm happy to take a look at it with Jill Kennedy and see if things are necessary to make adjustments or whatever. We can talk offline, but happy to help you with that.
Okay, yeah, I don't think it's anything, Patty Silva, Council Chair. I don't think it's anything very labor intensive at all. I think it might just be a matter of changing, a few words. So I don't, what do you guys think? Should we just have a couple council members look through the bylaws and then see what we need to do? And Kevin, if you have any other, suggestions. I know in the past, whenever we've had a bylaw change, which hasn't been very often, it was a simple matter because, it's just, you go through it, you put it forward to the council, they look through it, and then we would approve it at a next meeting, something like that. It's really kind of procedural. Kevin, you have your hand up again.
Yeah, Kevin Bronson, DDS. Yeah, I just the way that we run policies at the agency is that the subject matter experts, right? So it would be the council would make the initial draft and then send it over to myself and Jill, and then we can conform it to make it sound proper, and then you guys can review it again. So that was my offer.
Okay, great. That sounds good. Is there anybody who would be willing to just go through this? I'm willing to do that if anybody else wanted to join me. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be very intensive at all. So maybe just, a one meeting kind of a shot. Anybody? Oh,
I'd be
Diana.
happy to.
Thank you, Diana. All right, so we'll get a time together and just go through that real quick, and then we'll shoot it over to Kevin. Does that sound good to everybody? Do we need to make a motion? I think this is just a subcommittee, or I don't know. Kevin?
Kevin Bronson, DDS. It's always safe to make a motion.
Okay.
And yeah, you would have to, because you're creating a subcommittee, the chair should make a motion to create a subcommittee for this intent, this purpose, and then you guys can vote on it.
Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion to form a subcommittee? All right, Christine?
Christine Hainsworth Strauss. I move that we create a subcommittee to review the bylaws and bring them into conformance with practice and with.
Is there a second? Oh, thank you. Adrian? Okay, seconded by Adrian. All in favor of the motion? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
No? Okay, motion passes. So Diana and I will get together and go through the bylaws and see what we can come up with and pass along to Kevin for their review. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Next on our agenda is the ombudsperson report with Shannon Jacovino.
Hi, this is Shannon Jacovino, DDS ombudsperson. I sent my report out this morning. I got one question from Christine, just sort of asking about if there are particular areas where I'm seeing an increase in calls. And what I would say is this, is that the majority of the calls that I get are from people whose loved ones are in group homes. The issues kind of run the gamut from just sort of trying to work out and negotiate an issue with the group home and maybe running into a snag. And those calls usually just involve reaching out to the case manager and discussing the issue and just seeing if we can get things to a place where it's agreeable to both the provider and the family to, more, I think, serious concerns for agencies that are struggling with staffing, struggling with high turnover with group home managers, other kinds of managers, and nursing. And in those areas, there are more serious concerns about people's health and safety, the ability to follow through with individual plans, the ability to, provide proper medical attention to people. And, in those cases, I, again, work very closely with the region, with the case manager, usually in more serious cases, the assistant regional director, maybe the resource manager in nursing as well. And so I would say that I'm getting more of those calls than I did, a couple of years ago when I started the job. And I think that it is, the providers are struggling with not only maintaining, keeping staff, but also keeping managers. And, for people who are familiar with group homes, having a good manager is really critical to everything in a group home. So, that is the pattern that I'm seeing. And I do think it's concerning. I recognize that I only hear from people who are having problems and that's not happening everywhere. Occasionally I get to talk to people who are very happy with how things are going, and it's nice to hear. But I am concerned about the staffing crisis and how it's impacting people's the quality of the services that they're getting. So, does anybody else have any other questions or comments?
Would it be okay if I just sort of piggyback off of that, Shannon, in regards to the staffing? I know I've sent some emails around, and I think I need to give a little bit of context how it's all related. For the last 3 years, I've been taking a lot of research and a lot of calls from families. Most of them, as you are getting to know me, are the highest level of need individuals. Excuse me. As I choke, sorry. So I am seeing the same sort of complaints, and I think the commissioner sort of hit the nail on the head in one of our previous council meetings, which was, we can get things done and get money all we want thrown at us, but if we don't have the proper infrastructure, we can't replicate and help in these areas to even provide the services properly. So if I were to kind of agree with what you're saying, but also in context, it is so pervasive in every area, but it really starts with the staffing piece. And that is why I have really been advocating to look at other places that are really able to do it and find solutions, because I don't necessarily think, in regards to the higher level of needs, we're talking group home, residential placement, different things like that, the infrastructure has to be partnered with the amount of colleges and universities that are providing the proper education to staff and then replicate and train. And we just don't have it here. We have, the Southern down in New Haven, but we're sort of scattered all around. And so that was sort of one of the main reasons why I've been pushing this, because, and by pushing this, I mean asking a agency that is being successful now. They have the largest endowment in 60-year history in the nation that was just given to them. And it is for the purpose of helping states replicate a successful model and provide the necessary infrastructure to be able to staff it and to train other agencies. So I would just kind of add to what you're saying, that heaviness and kind of what we're all feeling and then not having a solution. I thought it was sort of, a win for everybody across the board. And it's the only solution I see to help at the foundational level for infrastructure replication. So I don't know if that kind of helps to give some context to some of the suggestions of having Melmark present in the future, but I'm really encouraging it.
This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS Ombudsperson. Thanks, Nicole. I would definitely like to learn more about the programs there myself. Mike?
And I think it's important to say to the council, it's the full continuum of care that I don't see one particular agency being able to cover, from, little all the way up through adult, and then being able to expand on that. Specifically for profound autism, you need the continuum of care and consistency across all settings. So that can be a real struggle for agencies as well, to be able to have that continuity across day programming, across, different places and settings. So.
Thanks, Nicole. Mike has his hand raised.
Michael Beloff, council member. And Nicole, I think you should know there are agencies that do offer, what used to be called cradle to grave services. Keep in mind that with changes to how birth to three services are offered, there are only currently, I think, 13 agencies providing birth to three services throughout the state. And due to how DDS provides services, there is not a tremendous amount of dollars for supports during the years between 3 and 22. That said, I think that yes, having access to additional training for staff can help with service delivery and with training and with quality of care and service. I think the big challenge right now is because of the base rates payable to individuals at $17.25 an hour for base support staff, which provide the majority of staff for adult services. It's hard to get college graduate folks working for $17.25 an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so those are not going, until there is movement at the legislature to provide significant wage increases. It may be challenging to fill out the staffing. Listen, I can remember, and I've been on an agency board for 20 years. There was probably about 7 or 8 years where the base rate was stuck at about $12 an hour. And there were at least 5 or 6 or 7 years, and forgive me for not knowing the correct number, where there were no increases from the state level for direct care staff. We've been lucky in recent years, except for this year, where base wage rates have gone up. And certainly there are agencies that are fundraising to be able to provide additions on top of the base wages from DDS. But while I think we do need to have perhaps better coordinated training for staff, and maybe for the executives at staff to understand, at agencies to understand what that best practices are. I think the housing shortage, the staffing shortage is going to be there until we can get the legislature to raise base rates.
So correct me if I'm wrong, just so I kind of understand. I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to be totally honest with you. When we're dealing with the law and level 8s, there are no beds, there's no agencies, there's no room. So we have these individuals placed out of state in institutional settings. I want them to come home to their families. And I'm sure everybody on this council does. So if I were to lay that as the context of what I'm saying, is that we cannot provide that level of care and also simultaneously have the proper pay scale structure. So we need an agency that has the financial backing to fill that gap.
Sure.
Okay. So,
and this is Michael Belloff, council member, just for the transcription. Nicole, are you talking about individuals between the ages of 3 and 22, or are you talking about adults?
I'm talking about across the board. So if you're dealing with extreme behavioral challenges.
I understand that, and I'm very familiar with autism. What I'm asking is are there individuals post 22 that DDS is funding out of state in a residential facility?
Yes.
Okay. I was not aware that was still happening.
And unfortunately, there's not a lot of awareness about it. And I'm dealing with these families who are in extreme crisis and trauma. And it's very difficult, but the state can save money if we bring them home. But we can't bring them home if they're continually saying that their needs cannot be met properly. And this is where it's frustrating, because I'm not speaking for my own son. I've got him set up. I'm actually speaking on behalf of the most serious cases of families with autism diagnosis, dual diagnosis, medical complexities. Some of them are funded by their LEAs and some are funded by DDS. There's been a lot of stuff in the news lately, and from the information I've been gathering, there's both pros and cons. But I really, really want to urge this council to get more research, more education, so that we can bring these individuals home, because the numbers are only going to increase as they age out. Just based on sheer statistics alone. I mean, we're not prepared for them. And I think we need the baseline of starting with these most severe situations. These are mostly young adults, that have either just recently aged out or in their 20s. And it's really sad. And I think we can do better. And I'm trying to help bridge the gap so that we can do better and we can get them. And, I talked to a family today. They're in Houston, Texas, in a hospital placement because there is nothing for their daughter. She can't get on the autism waiver because there's a long wait. So they got their LEA to fund. They've tried every placement on the East Coast and they're in Houston, Texas right now. That's like not acceptable. So so I've been racking my brain, gathering information, and then saying, okay, we can't pay staff. Agencies don't have enough money. Why not go to an agency that just got a massive endowment and their whole mission is to help other states replicate and create that infrastructure? And I think it would be amazing at the very least to just gain some expert information that I'm not equipped to provide. I'm not the expert. I'm just somebody with 20 years experience with my own son being out of state and other families that have been in the same situation. So
Patty Silva, Council Chair. Adrian, I know you have your hand up. Could I just briefly ask Jordan to just to speak up on this a little bit as far as Melmark presenting at a council meeting?
Thanks, Patty. Jordan Chef, Commissioner, DDS. So I understand the intent and the energy presented. There's some issues around asking them to present if, in fact, they are someone we might consider working with going forward because of the ethics in the contracting standards work. So a means to do that, there's a couple of logistical things. So we can't just say, unless we have there under certain circumstances, we could look to bring in an outside vendor from outside the state without an RFP process or an RFI process. For the acronym folks, RFI, request for information. And,
aren't they already a qualified provider because we have Connecticut?
No, they're a
people that are
children's
placed
program,
there?
and we don't have them on a master well, we may have them on contract.
For adult services, maybe not.
But
yeah.
But we can't ask them to come in and provide those services that would likely be provided in CLAs, licensed settings, without an RFP process. And if we have them in before the RFP, they would be disqualified from participating in the bidding process. So we have to thread a very fine needle with whomever we might consider. And I'm going to stop saying their name just because I don't want, there are other entities besides Melmark who do what Melmark does. And I'll also suggest that, having done some of the research you requested me to, and talk to my colleagues in other places, not everyone is as fond of what they do as you are. So I think a lot of times, like, some people aren't fond of an agency I ran, but other people are, right? So there's
Sure.
different takes on that. And that includes from the government side of things. So I was able, when I was at the beginning of the month at NASD's, to talk with my colleagues in Massachusetts. So having said all that, we have a group work, and I want to clarify a couple of other things. We have people with Lawn 7s and 8s placed all around Connecticut, both in day programs and residentially. So while it is a struggle for some of our newer folks coming into service at those levels and during the current staffing crisis, it is not true that no one with a 7 or 8 has services here in Connecticut. We do it, and we do it a lot. And I can get that data for you. I'll also share that we monitor our out-of-state placements and look to bring individuals home on a recurring basis. We have staff assigned just for oversight of ongoing litigation with a number of bodies. I won't talk in detail about the report that you're referencing that has circulated in the news. I will tell you that not all out-of-state placements are created equal, and some are good and some are bad, and I wouldn't use one wet blanket to throw over all of them if there was one particular agency that was underperforming. And at the same time, while some of the advocates' eyes on that program have concerns, the families reportedly are very happy with the supports. There's no urgency on the families to bring those individuals home. You are absolutely correct that there's a revenue loss When we place people out of state, we don't get the Medicaid revenue. So we don't get 50 cents on the dollar, but often those institutional type settings, and I use that in the broad sense of institution, those bigger programs like that take out of state placements, the rate is not so exorbitant when when compared to our in-state rates. 50 cents on the dollar loss isn't huge, and it's a much smaller number of individuals. And I see Krista's on the call tonight. We can get you some of the lawn data you were talking about. And Krista oversees a lot of the movement between institutional settings and our traditional waivered supports, and has a case manager dedicated to just that in our MFP program. So I think what might be helpful, Nicole, so that I can better understand what it is you're hoping to see happen, is maybe we can have another one of our one-on-one conversations, and we can talk about what it is you want, and then I can try and help thread the needle once I can determine whether you're looking for a service provider in state or a training and consultation model to come to the state, because training and consultation can be procured very differently than someone to operate group homes. And I'm very happy to do that at some point in mid-August or so, although I'm going to travel to Baltimore. Well, no, that'll be all right. Well, Wes will help us find a time on that, Nicole. My calendar's a little crazy, but I just want to be, while it is a solution and their reputation is very good, I don't mean to say anything negative towards them as a provider, and all of the families that we have placed there have been very happy with the supports and services there. So again, I don't want to throw a wet blanket on out-of-state placements. But the capacity issue is in Massachusetts as well as here, in terms of people with difficult challenges in life, finding proper services. And Massachusetts and Connecticut have played a little game of leapfrog over the last 6 years in terms of wages. We got ahead of them, then they got ahead of us, then we got back ahead of them, and then now they're back ahead of us. And that goes back and forth. It particularly impacts providers on our border, where, so people in Torrington will go work in Pittsfield instead, because right now it's a buck or a buck and a half more an hour. And there are other, all across Springfield versus Enfield and all of that. So we lose potential employees to our Massachusetts neighbors when we play this game of leapfrog, because they can pick up an extra buck an hour. Some of those providers are also multi-state, like community enterprises and places like that. There's one that we use that's an out-of-state provider technically, but their day services are just north of our Putnam office in Massachusetts, and we are contracted there. So it's a little more complex, and that it's complex. We've had lots of good conversation around this, but maybe we can take one more round at that and try and find a path to kind of deliver on the information sharing part without tainting any ability, were we to consider contracting with a provider or doing an RFP to bring home individuals from out of state in some sort of grouping that would allow us to do that. And that's probably an 18-month to 3-year process, depending on the availability of housing stock. So none of this happens fast. Yep. That's just a quick sort of overview based on that conversation. I don't want to shut it down, but I want to be very difficult. And I say this from experience. My predecessor, in an intent to do a very good work on our half, brought in someone who they thought could help with some of our software issues, and was contracting not with a service provider, but a system provider. And then when we did the RFP, they were precluded by ethics from being considered, even though they had the solution we wanted. So we got burned once about 9 years ago, and I want to make sure that if we are good to go that route and they're a viable solution, we don't do anything to upset that apple cart. Thank you, Patty, for the opportunity.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. Thank you for giving that information that I wasn't aware of. So that's helpful.
All right, Patty Silva, Council Chair. Jordan, did you want to say anything more?
Jordan Chef, Commissioner, just pointing that Adrian has been very patient with her hand raised while I got on my stump for a moment.
And that's where I was going. Adrian, go ahead. Sorry about the delay.
Adrian Benjamin, council member. I know we're on the ombudsman report, so I don't know if this is if we should continue this very important discussion here or at another point. But I did want to point out that somehow Hark, where my daughter is, it's a large agency based in Hartford with 9 group homes and 1 CLA and other things that I don't know exactly what they're called these days. Used to be the the model where you can have 25% people with ID and 75%, what's that called? Somebody knows what that's called. Anyway.
It was iDash, it's now supported housing.
Right,
Supportive
thank you.
housing, Jordan Sheff, Commissioner.
Right. So Hark has one of those places as well as 9 group homes and 1 CRS. And they raised their wages to $19 an hour a few months ago. And we are getting staff. It makes a difference. Now, I don't know how they did it because it wasn't done through the government, but somehow they're doing it. And obviously, fundamentally, it's through the government. How they're rearranging things, I don't know. But I can't believe it. My daughter's group home is staffed. And in the 3.5 years she's been there, it has not been fully staffed until this last few weeks. So something good is happening when we raise wages. I just wanted to bring that up. Now, are these folks, none of them have college degrees, of course. They have that heart and that interest and the commitment to doing this kind of work. Obviously, they won't all necessarily be there 2 years from now, who knows? But I see progress. I don't know if other agencies have done this, but Hart did. So I also have a whole little important info to give about an advocacy thing for us to do about direct support professionals, federal legislation that we need to work on between now and August 12th. So, oh my God. So I can bring that up later in the commissioner's report or some other report. But anyway, so stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty Sullivan, Council Chair. Michael, you have your hand up.
Michael Beloff, council member, and I'm sorry that I keep talking, but to piggyback on Adrian, agencies do and can fundraise and use their fundraising dollars to supplement the base wages that DDS provides, that DDS is authorized to provide through the funding from the state. In addition, there have been some additional dollars through ARPA, some of which have more limited functions, like just funding through to retirement plans as opposed to direct wages. But agencies can be creative, but it's a challenge because when you choose to fundraise to supplement DDS-based wages, you have to do that every year. It's not a one-time thing. So, and depending on the agency and their payroll, which tends to be by far the largest expense at any agency, you have to be careful how you choose to raise wages above base weights, because it means you have to do at least X amount of fundraising every year to maintain those rates.
Patty Silva, Council Chair. Thank you, Michael. That's makes a lot of sense. And Adrian, we will get back to your other item a little bit later on. Jordan, you have your hand up.
Jordan Sheff, Commissioner, and Michael's spot on in a lot of what he articulated there. I'll also add that and I don't know if it was Hark or others, occasionally just do the math. What they chew up in overtime with vacancies is maybe a much cheaper option to offer $1 more an hour and reduce their overtime. And so I think there are a number of agencies who are above our minimum in a variety of ways, as Michael articulated. And right, you can't use one-time funding in a bargaining unit environment and guarantee that. So my guess is that Hark found another creative solution beyond fundraising, because otherwise you do have to fundraise at that level in perpetuity. If you're in, because they're a union shop at Hark. So I do think that there's a number of ways to get there, but one of the ways is simply to raise your rates to reduce your overtime and turnover, and that you pay a little more, but you save a lot more, kind of effect. And circle around to that later. Thank you.
Okay, Patty, Council Chair. Adrian, did you have your hand up or you took it back down? Okay. Shannon, was there anything else? Because we kind of, split off. I just want to make sure that you're finished with your report, or if there was any other questions that anybody had.
This is Shannon Giacovino, DDS ombudsperson. I'm all done unless anybody has any questions.
All right, doesn't look like there's any other questions on that. Next up is Commissioner's update. Jordan, do you have some exciting news to share?
Thank you, and I appreciate that, Patty. Jordan Chef, Commissioner at DDS. Before I share my exciting news, I'm going to be brief this evening as I haven't been here a lot, and I'm still getting up to speed over the last month. And Krista has agreed to join us, and as a young man in her house, we'll be very excited to see her when she's finally done working. So I'd like to get to her so she can go be with him. But in the meantime, let me give you just a quick update, and I'll share my exciting news at the end because it's hard to follow it. And I apologize for that, Krista, but you know where I'm headed. So I was effectively out of the office for a month. And so for the first time since I'm a very young man working at a shoe store at 16 years old, I've been away from work for that long. 4 days of it was at a fabulous conference where the eyes were on Connecticut a lot as we talked about a number of the things that we're doing to improve services. And while I appreciate all the concerns expressed through these meetings. When I go away and I'm out of state, you should all know that they come to Connecticut's leadership and to California's and to New York's and Tennessee's and a few Pennsylvania now with Kristen Ahrens there, looking for advice on how they can do better. And they're great leaders all across the country. We're ranked pretty high in a number of areas, so we get a lot of attention there, and it's flattering. And that's reinforced for me as I then spent 2 weeks with my daughter at a neuro rehab clinic in LA that I'm going to tell you a little bit about. And I think a number of you will be very interested in that. And Nicole, I think you'll be very interested in what I describe in a few moments. But when I came back, I then had my annual family vacation, and now I'm back to work. And while there was somewhere around 1,500 emails for me to plow through, the staff that I have worked very hard to recruit and keep, recruit and then retain are amazing. While certainly there were problems while I was gone, most of them were handled. Or there were very few things that they said, "Oh, we're not going to do anything about it till Jordan comes back." So while I have a lot of emails still to catch up on, things went generally well in a lot of areas. Or we have some ongoing issues that that you all are aware of with regards to our transition to GTI, and there were certainly some individual case issues while I was gone. But there were no big blowups, and there was a lot of kumbaya amongst my leadership team and those who they supervise. So as a commissioner who's always worried when he goes away, even for a long weekend, about what's going to happen while I'm gone, it was very nice to be able to have that space and separation. And you might wonder how separated I was. This morning, I scrambled after being back a week to finally find my swipe-in badge so I could access the office. I couldn't remember what safe place I put it in. And the first morning I was back, I was panicked and texting Wes, I have a meeting at 9 and I have no idea what my password is to my laptop. How can I get that fixed? It was that kind of separation. And while staff may regret giving me that time and space, because I came back energized and with a whole lot of ideas about stuff I want to add to their plates, they're very happy to see me engaged at the level I am. And part of that has to do with the success of our visit to this neuro rehab clinic. And I'm going to try and get through it for the first time without crying, but I make no promises. A few of you have seen some of the video of it. What I can tell you is we rolled the dice. They're not, and to your point, Nicole, with the family in Texas, this is the only clinic of its kind in the country that does what they do in the manner that they do it. It's the only intensive outpatient movement disorder clinic that has targeted FND, functional neurologic disorder treatment. And I appreciate the personal privilege at this meeting with everybody's time to let me just share a little bit. My intent, though, outside of my scope as commissioner of DDS, is to work with my partners, because no one should have to go to California to get what we got. And certainly kids on Medicaid are almost never in the position to do what we just did. And very often children on Medicaid are exposed to more trauma and more contributing factors and more anxiety than my daughter was exposed to. So they probably are a number of people out there with FND who aren't even able to access a diagnosis without being able to align with very specific professionals. Whatever it is they're doing at this place in California, there's some special sauce. It was nothing short of life-changing. Gonna do it, Krista. I'm gonna do it, Shannon. And Shannon's helping me by staying off camera. Yeah, last night you really cemented so much of what we did as the clinic founder did a live Instagram interview of her. That is just overwhelmingly powerful, because the young lady I watched online last night is not the young lady I've known the last 3 years. And I missed her. And not only was she on form last night like I haven't seen, I think the Stella I saw last night is better than the Stella I ever experienced in my life, because she has this humility and empathy and caring and understanding that has come with her experience. And it's these magical staff out there. So I'm going to get to the clinical part. They do things very differently than anything I've seen. And I praise the work that the pain clinic does at CCMC and all the work they did for my daughter there. They are a fine institution and fabulous clinicians. But what they do there is very different in a lot of different ways. So almost every OT or PT has a student, a graduate level student working with them. So there's always 2 people in the room with Stella, sometimes 3. In addition, the psychologist assigned to her team participates in those OT and PT exercises. They have when she's there for that 6 weeks, they have a Stella channel where all of the communication and all of the stuff, they can follow each of the clients that they're really hyper focused on. And they have a number of teams, and they do other movement disorders like ALS and Parkinson's and MS and FMD, which is different than FND, and things like that. In any case, all of those things, as she said last night, it was about, they gave her strategies, not solutions. They didn't spend 6 weeks trying to fix her problem. They spent 6 weeks trying to give her skills to live with her issues. We do believe, and she does believe, as she gets better at using those supports and strategies, her life will just improve more and more and more. But she went from just surviving and barely, and at times it was really dark, barely surviving, to thriving and living in 6 weeks. So while I wasn't here to take care of all the things here, I'm blessed with staff who took care of one of the other very important things in my life, which is my commitment to the 17,000 people here. And they gave me the space and time to focus on her, and it was time well invested. And with that, I'm going to compose myself and beg Krista to follow me in what is going to be a very difficult circumstance given that story. But I know a number of you have reached out to me throughout the last 3 years. And for goodness sakes, Adrienne was president, I think, when this started, or council chair. She's seen my tears before. She's been a shoulder for me and an ear to vent. And given her background, someone who could help me make some connections. And in fact, I returned the favor, as she has a friend in similar straits, and I could share the resources that we have stumbled across accidentally with them as well. It's a magical place. It's a place called Reactive. And so they did this interview, last piece of the pie. In October, they are training, listen to this, they are coming east to train clinicians affiliated with Johns Hopkins and the other hospitals in the DMV area. They are asking Stella to participate as a case study and a volunteer working there. It just doesn't get better. So that's my joy, even though it's tear-filled. Pretty amazing. And thank you for letting me share.
Patty Silva, Council Chair. Thank you for sharing with us. I think that this just goes to show the strength of Stella's spirit and the family behind her. So I think as parents, we can all relate and are very thankful for the wonderful experience that she's been having and that you guys have experienced too.
Jordan Chef Commissioner, left that clinic, came home, went on her family vacation, and she and her sister rented an apartment in Virginia. She lives as a grown 20-year-old.
And can you share possibly with the council, maybe offline or whatever, the reel that they did?
Yeah, I will work with Kevin tomorrow. I will try and share a link 2 ways, but I need help getting it from my phone to an email that I can then get to you. And I
That's
want to
fine.
make sure with Kevin it's okay that I'm sending it over a state email because it's an Instagram link, but I think we'll be successful. You'll get 2 videos. One is just about a 10-second intro that shows her from 3 years ago at 20 seizures a day to starting at the clinic where she could barely walk a straight line for 12 steps to playing volleyball with her PT, OT, and psychologist in the rec room. 6 weeks. A lot of work to do, but then the second piece is a 40-minute interview. Katie said to me today, does everybody in your house know how to command an audience, or is it a family trait? Stella absolutely had a commanding presence and made the clinic director cry. As she put into her words, and it was great because Stella's grown up around these words, talking to her about being an advocate, talking to her about how important it is for somebody with lived experience to share their message and to help others. So yeah, it does trickle down. And I will absolutely figure out how to share that, Patty.
Yeah, I was trying, but I think I'd have to figure out a different way to do it too. So anyways, that's just wonderful. We're so happy for you. Next time I'll warn everybody to have some Kleenex. So back to reality now, Commissioner. Was there anything that you wanted to share in your commissioner report?
Let me just a couple quick things that I didn't highlight. So GTI was having issues with the transition before I left. We have done a number of forums about that. We have additional calls with them in training. And there are still several troubled a number of cases, more cases needing escalation than we would like at this point. At the same time, at the South Region RAC this week or last week, a number of families expressed how great it is, that things are going really well, that they like the suite of tools available in the app, that they like the customer service response time. There are a couple bigger programs, self-determined programs, very bigger budgets with a number of staff involved. And unfortunately, they have struggled on those fronts. And we are, their director and other commissioners from here in the state will be meeting so that we can try and rectify that. And then we will be announcing some dedicated resources to continue to assist with that transition in the weeks to come. I would say that that's probably the biggest issue. I'll share quickly because we're going to run out of time. Legislatively, there was a special session right before I left or right after I left, and it did what it needed to, and it had no impact on DDS that has been reported to me, and I think I have that right, Kevin. So it opened and shut, and there were no changes to anything that we updated you on at the close of the regular session. And other than that, I just haven't dug through all my emails enough to know a whole lot more, other than that things went pretty well in my absence, minus some of the normal stuff, and then the GTI transition continues to be a problem for our families.
Patty Silva, Chair. And what about, I know you're still coming back to, thousands of emails, update on the guide for individuals and legal representatives? the abuse and
So-
neglect.
So that's posted, Jordan Sheff, DDS Commissioner, that is posted to the website. The only thing missing from it is that I'm aware of that we had offered, or were some defined timelines for completion that I was hesitant to put in place because our private providers and our own staff are behind. All I'd be doing is setting them up to fail by instituting timelines we know they can't adhere to at the moment. So we're talking about strategies to catch the whole DDS universe up on their timelines, and then we can go about a go forward position with putting timelines in. I'm not aware of anything else missing from the guidelines, and to those who worked on that, Adrian and Shannon and others, if you want to take a peek, Kevin and Wes will make sure you have the link again, because I think we sent it out once already, but we'll send it out again. If you think there's something that we had promised to include that has been omitted, we'll circle around and take a look at that, but it exists on the website currently. Kevin can also assist if we think it's positioned poorly within his scope with the webmaster to move it to certain places, but there are some standards that the state has established for what can be on front pages and what can be on primary pages and what can be on secondary pages. So he only has so much latitude with the governance put in place over unifying state websites. And I think I articulated that kind of the way the message came to you, Kevin. Kevin is nodding affirmatively for the transcription.
Yeah, Kevin Bronson, DDS. Yes, correct. There are certain things we can do, can't do, but we could always try to see what we can do, right, with the limitations we have.
With that, Patty, I'll close. Jordan Sheff, DDS Commissioner, I'll close my the report and to take any questions about Stella or anything else.
Great. Patty Silva, Council Chair. Does anybody have any questions for Jordan? Okay. All right. Thank you, Jordan. We will move on to Krista with her presentation and get her back to the guy that's waiting for her there.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Krista Ostaszewski. I'm the Health Management Administrator at DDS. Did I just freeze? Can everyone see me? Am I frozen? Okay, that was strange. All of a sudden, everything froze. The minute I start talking, of course. So again, Krista Ostaszewski, Health Management Administrator. I oversee the DDS waivers. And I think I'm here today to talk about GTI, but I also heard that there may be some interest in talking about the new program that rolled out at the beginning of May, which allows for legal guardians and parents of school-age children to be paid caregivers. So I am happy to talk through both of those items or just GT if that is what the council would like. I know the commissioner did mention some of what we've been working through with GT, the new fiscal intermediary, but I'm happy to provide additional details and answer questions. I also just want to say thank you to the commissioner for sharing his inspirational story of his daughter. It's been a really amazing journey to listen to and to see Stella grow. It's incredibly inspiring. So it's also hard to do a presentation after that. Hard to follow up, but that's okay. I will do my very best. So Patty, as the council chair, would you like me to focus on GT? I believe that's what the agenda states. I'm happy to go through that if that's what you would wish me to focus on.
Patty Silva, Council Chair. We had initially had GTI on, but we're informed that it's kind of been covered from our past meeting and there are still some things that are being worked on. So that's why I think the latest version of the agenda has you doing paid caregivers presentation, if you are prepared to do that.
I was prepared to do both because I wasn't sure what the agenda was going to read as. So I am happy to jump right into paid caregivers. I actually have a brief PowerPoint presentation that I can share and go through, and then we can talk through any questions. If you just give me one moment, I'll pull that up.
At Patty, Council Chair, just really quick, Christine has a hand up. I don't know if.
Hi, yes, it does. Christine Hainsworth Strauss. Sorry, I thought you were talking about GTI till I got the second agenda. So I just wondered if we could just take just a quick moment to just kind could you tell us what issues are still the big issues that are unresolved, or the clusters of issues that are still outstanding that you're working on, and just a little more defined?
Yeah, absolutely, Christine. So Krista Ostaszewski, Health Management Administrator. So just briefly, as noted by the Commissioner, GT Independence is our new fiscal intermediary for the state. They are the fiscal intermediary for DDS, as well as Department of Social Services for their CFC program. The transition from the old FI to the new FI occurred the end of March. And that transition, like all transition, came with challenges. Such a large transition with thousands of employers and thousands of employees comes with lots of different moving parts. So we knew that the transition was going to be challenging, but we had a lot of different resources to make sure that there was enough capacity to make sure that there was attention across the board to ensure that families get supports and services, and that direct support professionals are being paid timely. We are seeing that there are still some concerns with enrollment, new direct support professionals being enrolled with the new FI. And I think, where we're pinpointing the concerns is that the process is different, right? We've had the old FIs for a very long time. Everyone was very familiar and comfortable with their process. We now have a new FI, and the new FI is very focused on electronic forms and making sure that there's documentation and process. And the process is different. So we're really working hard to make sure that we're streamlining what that enrollment process looks like. But making sure that we're also meeting Medicaid requirements, state and federal requirements around Department of Labor. So there's been a lot of work to make sure that obviously there isn't a timeline issue, right? There isn't a prolonged process for enrolling DSPs, but also making sure that we're meeting the requirements of the program. Again, I think one of the biggest issues is that the process is different. Everyone is getting comfortable to a new process, new forms, new email addresses, new points of contact. And that's something that not only families are getting more comfortable with, but so is DDS. We are working really hard to put together communication documents, right? To make sure that our case managers have the information they need to share with families, and that families also have accessible communication documents for all things FI related as well. I think a lot of those tools are going to be very helpful. It just takes time to get them to a place where they can be live and be shared with families and case managers. So we're continuing to work on that. The other piece that continues to be a struggle is the customer service wait times. We know the wait times are higher than we want them to be. GT has stated that in public forums, and we're actively working to put more resources towards reducing wait times and making sure that customer service staff are trained properly so they're giving accurate information to individuals, families, and staff. Again, it's a new program. It's a new FI. It's a new process. So we're meeting with GT multiple times a week to try and work through all of these details and try and make sure that we have clear processes in place that not only GT is following, but that DDS is also making sure we're sharing with families. So we're reviewing policies, procedures, guidelines, all of those fun things. But again, once we come to an agreement between both the FI and DDS, those are going to be tangible policies that everyone can point back to that we can make sure are being implemented consistently. So we're seeing incremental improvements. There's absolutely still a lot of work to be done, but I think there's commitment on both the state and GT's end to make sure that we will continue these efforts until people are receiving the supports and services they need and that they're receiving them timely. That was a lot for a short answer, so I apologize. I hope I answered appropriately, and happy to take additional questions on this. Oh,
Patty Silva, Council Chair. Adriana has a hand up.
Thank you, Patty. Adriana Ramirez, council member. Krista, I just had a quick question. The at the forum for the GTI, they mentioned having 80 additional employees coming in, and I don't know, I can't recollect correctly if they were all coming into Connecticut. I know they're looking at opening a Southington. Are they all coming into Connecticut? When is that happening? What is that support specifically for?
Yeah, great questions. Thanks, Andriana. So this is Krista Ostaszewski, Health Management Administrator. So I believe what you're referencing is the the Connecticut-based pod. So as most are aware, GT is a national company. They work in a few different other states providing fiscal intermediary services. But they are going to have a Connecticut presence. So they actually have an office currently in Waterbury. It takes walk-ins, it's open to the public. They're opening a second location in Southington. My understanding, Adriana, is that location should be open in the fall. And in both of those buildings, they're going to have Connecticut-based pods. So what those pods are going to do is those are going to be Connecticut-based GT employees that will be experts on all things Connecticut, right? So they are going to be the Connecticut-based experts. Our understanding is it's supposed to be approximately around 80 staff. We're still working with GT to get a specific number, and GT is currently training that staff now. So we are hoping that by, I think the plan is by the end of August, those pods will be up and running. Our understanding is that when a Connecticut phone number calls customer service, it'll be routed to those pods again. So the Connecticut calls will go to Connecticut experts at the fiscal intermediary. And again, those Connecticut-based experts will also be stationed in Connecticut-based buildings. So GT will allow for there to be walk-ins and assistance to be provided in person. Are there other hands?
Sorry, Christine, go ahead. I didn't put my hand up.
That's right. Hi, Krista. I can't imagine what you've gone through for this whole process. I know it has been exhausting and exhaustive, probably. But I guess I just was looking for more of an encapsulation of actual issues. I didn't realize that bringing DSPs on board was an issue still. But like I know that like the Uber Lyft reimbursement, Michael had mentioned that in the past. Do we have like, and you don't even, if it's not, I don't want to keep everybody tonight either on this, but if you could just send a quick bullet point, maybe, of just saying, these are the outstanding issues we're still resolving, like Uber Lyft, hiring DSPs, just so we know when we hear from the other parts of the community.
Yeah, Christine, absolutely. We can put something like that together. I do just want to clarify. Yep, absolutely. I do want to clarify two quick things. So the challenge around DSPs is the enrollment process, right? So I'm not saying that DSPs can't be enrolled, because they absolutely are. But what we are finding is the challenge is the new process for enrollment, right? The paperwork, the questions, signing documents via DocuSign. It's a new process, right? Everyone's trying to get comfortable with it. And we're finding that it's still taking a little bit longer than what we're hoping. So that is absolutely something that is still a challenge. Transportation is still something that we're working through. We've got some really good solutions that hopefully will be going live within the next month. It's going to provide a lot more flexibility for individuals that have transportation on their budgets. But we know right now transportation continues to be a challenge. So absolutely, Christine. And what we can do is put together some other bullets and just share those with the group, just to identify some of the other sort of pending issues that we're continuing to work through. Absolutely.
Patty Silva, Council Chair. Nicole, you have a hand up?
Oh, yeah. I'm not muted. Nicole Milo, Council Member. Thank you, Krista. So I have a question, and I wasn't sure. I was listening to the GTI issues, but you mostly with the paid caregiver that you guys were sort of working some things out, some details of it out before you present more. And I guess one of my questions with that is, we have the cost standard reference guide, and I'm trying to learn the whole system from a self-direct perspective and also from an agency allocation perspective. So if a caregiver is going to be paid, do we yet have the, maybe however you guys are going to cap it at a certain amount? What is there going to be a range? I'm sort of looking to see what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Krista Ostaszewski, Health Management Administrator. So I apologize because I think while you were explaining your question, Nicole, the audio went in and out. But I think what I was hearing is that you were actually asking about the program to pay legal guardians and parents of school-age children and the requirements around that. Is that accurate? Okay, so if everyone is comfortable, that actually might be a nice transition to the PowerPoint presentation I was going to do on that topic. Does that sound okay? All right, perfect.
I'm sorry, I jumped the gun. A little ADD.
No, Nicole, it was like I planted you there because it was a perfect way to transition right into the PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to share right now. We'll get right to that, and I think I'll be able to answer your questions by going through the PowerPoint. Okay. Everyone can see my screen? Everyone can
Yes.
see my screen? Okay, great.
Yes.
Fantastic. So this is the same PowerPoint that I did do at some of the commissioners' forums a few months ago. I'm going to run through it very quickly. It's 9 slides, but it'll go by very quickly. And then I'm going to actually give you a first glance at some updates we did to the website today to better promote the ability to pay legal guardians and parents of school-age children. We're really exciting. The website piece just launched today, so perfect timing because now we can share it with the council as well. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about the ability to for legal guardians and parents of school-age children to provide certain waivered supports and be compensated for those supports. So we always start the conversation about talking about why we're moving in this direction. We moved in this direction because one component of it was the legislature mandated us to. So we had a legislation that passed in 2023 that required us to amend our waivers in order to be able to pay legal guardians and pay parents of school-age children. But we also were already having conversations about moving in this direction. Not only was that happening in the state of Connecticut, but it was happening nationally. What we learned was that during the pandemic, CMS on the federal level allowed us to pay legal guardians temporarily, right? That was a short-term and temporary option that we were allowed to explore. But by exploring that option, CMS learned that there were absolutely benefits to moving forward with paying legal guardians to provide supports. And I think by allowing that flexibility short-term, CMS was able to be more comfortable moving in that direction. And it also allowed the department, Connecticut, to say, there's really some benefits to doing this. So we were already having conversations, both state and nationally, about moving in this direction, and the legislature just pushed us there a little quicker. So we're really excited about this direction. We absolutely see the benefits, not only for assisting individuals, but in a time where there is absolutely a workforce crisis, there's real benefits to making sure that natural supports have the ability to provide ongoing supports, and that's done by making sure the people providing the supports are compensated appropriately. Our waiver amendment process took a while, as waiver amendments do. So we officially launched this program on May 1st. It's important that I note we had a soft rollout of this program. And when I say soft rollout, I mean we were not shouting it from the rooftops, right? You're a legal guardian, you can provide supports and be paid now. And that was a conscious decision because we just implemented our transition to the new FI at the end of March. So if you think about timeline, we just brought a new FI on board, and then we launched this new program on May 1st. We wanted to make sure that not only was the new FI not overwhelmed, but our case managers and families weren't overwhelmed with all of these changes and all of these new programs. So we absolutely went live with the program on May 1st. Our case managers were fully trained. We did some forums where I presented about the importance of this option being available, but we did do a soft launch. We now have information that's being accessible publicly about the program. We're really excited to get that up and running, but it wasn't up prior. And that's because we wanted to make sure that we were really trying to balance out all the new sort of programs that families and case managers were trying to work through under self-direction. So the DDS philosophy and approach. We are really approaching this new program as part of the larger service delivery array for everyone supported in the department. So what that means is this program isn't offering new supports and services. It's not offering new money. What it's offering is another option on how services and supports can be provided, right? So when an individual becomes active with DDS, they receive a needs assessment. We define where their needs are and what supports can help meet those needs. The next question after that's defined is how are those supports going to be provided now, right? Are they going to be provided by a private provider? Are they going to be provided by a direct support professional that will hire? This is now going to add another option to that menu, right? And that option is going to be, is the legal guardian or parent going to provide that support and be compensated for that support? So here's a really brief summary of our waiver amendments and the requirements associated with the program. We were not able to amend all of our waiver services to allow parents and legal guardians to provide supports and services. CMS on the federal level said we could only amend services that had a personal care component to them. So not all services can be provided by a legal guardian parent, only those that have a personal care component in them. So the 5 checks that you see here are the 5 services that we were able to amend. That's individualized home support, respite, individualized day, personal supports, and senior supports. Those are the services that can be provided by legal guardians and provided by parents of school-aged children. There was a few other pieces of criteria that we needed to include in our waiver amendments and in the program requirements. The first piece was that CMS required that for parents of school-aged children, right, looking to provide support to their young minor children, we had to determine that the care being provided was considered extraordinary. That is a CMS requirement and CMS language. So if a parent of a school-age child is looking to provide care and be compensated for that care, we have to determine that the care being provided is considered extraordinary. So for parents of school-age children, we had to implement an age dependency assessment form where we take a look at the care and determine if the care being provided is considered extraordinary. That is not a requirement for legal guardians providing supports to adults. This is specific to parents of school-age children. And I say school age because as I think everyone here knows, right? Individuals with intellectual disability can stay in school up to their 22nd birthday. A minor is defined as once you're 18, you're considered an adult. So for this, it's parents of school-age children up to the age of 22. A few other pieces of limitation in the program. The first is that we had to limit the number of hours that a parent or a legal guardian could provide support. So there is a cap on the number of hours that can be provided. I'm going to go into detail on that in a few more slides, so I'm not going to talk through that right now. The provision of waiver services has to be in the best interest of the participant. That's a requirement for all waiver services we provide. It has to be within the best interest of the participant. So if the team has discussed a situation where a legal guardian has asked to provide and be compensated for supports, if the team decides it's not within the best interest of the participant, DDS does not have to fund the arrangement. So we've talked to case managers about what that may or may not mean. I think we have some really good formal and informal processes that help and support teams who may have concerns about legal guardians or parents providing supports and being compensated for supports. There's concerns about isolation. There's concerns if there's an open pending abuse and neglect allegation. There's concerns if the parent has other responsibilities that may take away from their ability to provide supports to the loved one that they're caring for. So there's different sorts of situations that need to be reviewed, and that's all a part of the discussion that is a part of the program. Another important piece that's good to talk through is the waivers prohibit employers of record from providing any paid supports outside of their role as an EOR. So what does that mean? If you're an EOR and you're a legal guardian, you cannot provide and be paid for supports. You have to relinquish your role as an employer of record if you want to be a paid legal guardian. So you don't have to relinquish your role as a legal guardian, right? You can continue to be a legal guardian. You can provide supports and be paid for those supports, but you can't maintain your role as an employer of record. Remember, employers of record are the employer. They sign off on timesheets. They negotiate rates for their employees. If you're an employer of record and you're also being paid to provide supports, there's some major conflicts of interest there. So CMS required that employers of records are not prohibited, from providing and being paid to provide those supports. So that is explicit in the waiver, and we have no flexibility there. Okay, compensating parents of school-aged children. We talked about the age-appropriate dependency form and the need to make sure that we're demonstrating that there's extraordinary care. That is the first step if you're a parent looking to provide supports for a child. The first step is going through that age dependency assessment form. Case managers have been trained on what this form is, and essentially it looks at the child's needs. They want to make sure that the child's needs are related to the disability, the support needs are related to the disability, and are not related to parental supports. All supports that can be provided by a parent to a child have a combined cap of 800 awake hours annually, right? We're looking at, when I say annual, we're looking at the individual's budget year, but 800 hours of combined supports essentially turns out to be about 15 hours a week of support. There is the ability for an exception to go over, but CMS required us to define what a cap on hourly support would look like for parents and for legal guardians. So for parents, the cap is 800 awake hours annually. Okay, compensating legal guardians. I'd mentioned earlier on, the age-appropriate dependency form is not relevant for legal guardians who are providing supports to an adult. So that is not something that is required for legal guardians interested in providing supports. The one piece here that's important to talk through is the cap on support hours. So for legal guardians providing supports to adults, the combined cap is 2,100 hours of awake support annually, again, defined as an individual's budget year. 2,100 awake hours a year ends up being about, give or take, 40 hours a week. So we're looking at full-time employment. There is an exception to go over the cap, but we did need to find a cap in the waiver about how high that would be. Nicole, I saw your hand go up.
I just wasn't clear if the same areas of service delivery were covered for adults or if residential was included in that. I didn't see a breakdown. I don't know if I missed something.
Yep, I'll go back to the waiver services. So it's individualized home support. So that is residential.
So that's across age. That's across age setting.
That is correct. That is across age.
Adult. Okay, got it.
Yep, absolutely.
Got it.
The one thing I will mention, Nicole, is not all these services are appropriate for everyone, right? So specifically, respite is one that we've talked about a lot with our case managers. Respite is to provide the natural support system with an opportunity to rest. If you're a parent living with a child and you're looking to be compensated for supporting that child, respite would not be appropriate, right? Because the respite is to make sure that you have a break. So in those situations, respite would be appropriate if the individual is not living with the legal guardian or the parent. then the parent could be paid for respite because they're respiting the entity that is taking full-time care of that individual. That is something that we've talked with case managers a lot, but it is something that needs to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. What I would recommend, if there's questions about what services would be appropriate or not appropriate, talking with your case manager and the team is the best next step.
There's currently a lot of families that can't get a placement in a group home or residential that are planning their whole life around residential budgets to be able to be self-allocated, and which would include the legal guardian. So this might be something for a future topic to kind of go over if it could be considered.
Yeah, Nicole, I think, one of the things I've said when I've done this presentation before is this program is new. It's not only new for DDS, it's new for the state, and it's still really new nationally from a Medicaid coverage perspective. So we're learning a lot. We've learned so much since we've launched this program, but if you think about it, it's only been live for 3 months maybe, so we still have a lot of learning to do. And that may mean putting new requirements in place, putting policies in place, pulling back on something, making an adjustment to an amendment. This is a new program, not only for DDS, but for the state and really nationally. So we're going to be learning together. I think there's a lot of excitement about what this brings to the individuals and families we support, but I think it's also going to bring a lot of opportunity to explore other options as well. All right, I am almost done with this presentation. Let me just finish up the last 2 slides and then we can take some additional questions. The next slide is just how to get the process started, right? So the first step really is making sure that if you are a family interested in moving in this direction, let your case manager know. The case manager should put together a meeting with the team and make a determination if it's in the best interest of the waiver participant. If the team has decided that it is important to move in this direction, then the legal guardian or the parent would enroll with the FI as a direct support professional. That means they will have to go through the background check. They will have to go through the training requirements. But that also means that all of the benefits that come with being a direct support professional will also be applicable to a legal guardian or a parent who's going to provide supports and be compensated for those supports, right? So the collective bargaining agreement, which identifies benefits, overtime, holidays, all of those benefits and rights will be applicable to parents and to legal guardians. Like every other DSP, the team would work with the legal guardian and the parent to really start identifying in the IP the role and responsibility of the legal guardian or the parent in providing the supports. What are the goals? What steps do the parent or the legal guardian have to implement in order to make sure the individual is meeting the goals associated with the services? So really, the parent or the legal guardian becomes a direct support professional, and all of the requirements, all of the benefits of becoming a direct support professional are then applicable in this scenario. This is my last slide, and this is keys to success. And it's funny because every time I do this presentation, I say it shouldn't be keys to success. It should be key to success, because the main key to success in this program is communication. Ongoing, respectful, and transparent communication between the family, the individual, and the team. That is incredibly important to make sure that this process is successful. We want to make sure that the individual is receiving quality supports and services. We want to make sure the parent, who's now going to be a direct support professional, is getting the support they need to provide supports appropriately. We want to make sure the team feels comfortable to address with the legal guardian if supports and services aren't being provided properly. The key to a successful program is communication. All right, that's my contact information, just in case you need to know how to spell my crazy last name. I'm happy to take questions. Michael? Can I call on questions? Thanks, Patty. I wasn't sure. Okay, I think I can. Michael, you have your hand up.
Hi, Michael Beloff, council member, and Brista, this is fabulous. You've been very helpful with some GTI questions we had in our personal situation, so you're doing a great job. They're not paying you enough. With this, I think there's been a lot of confusion on families on how all this works. I think part of one of the challenges is families don't understand how things work. I think as families enter the system, especially new families, they don't really know why they have a budget. They don't know the difference between CFC and IHS and day supports and what's a waiver. And I have these dollars and how are you telling me I can't use it in this way? So I think there needs just in general to be some general education to families as to, how their budgets work, how it's being paid, what the restrictions, because I don't know that that's being communicated effectively to families when they onboard, especially at 22. With that said, I think we want to be careful on the respite side. There's been like there's this Connecticut Facebook listserv of like 9,000 families on it that's been buzzing about parents getting paid and lots of misinformation. I would be very careful when this goes on the website about it paying for respite. Families don't really get what you articulated very well, which is if your kid's living with you, you can't be paid for respite for you to give yourself the respite. It doesn't work that way. And that is unclear to many families. Understanding about how it works when the kid is under 22 is going to be very, very helpful for that understanding. One question I did have was, many families look to self-direction when an agency can't provide staff. But is there ability to kind of split the ticket for families who want to buy, like a family has to say an IHS budget and they want to buy some hours from an agency and some hours self-direction? Would there be the ability to do that under this program?
Yeah, Michael, so thank you so much. So first of all, thank you for your kind comments. We are doing everything we can to work through all of the challenges that families are facing with anything, including the new FI. So anything we can do to help, please just let us know. So just to answer your last question, and then I'm going to work backwards a little bit. There is absolutely opportunities for families to decide how to best support their loved one. So that can mean having an agency provide some supports, having direct support professionals that have been hired provide supports, and have the legal guardian provide some supports. We've worked with case managers already to say, let's take a look at this situation. Does the legal guardian want to provide supports? Well, not really sure if it's going to work out long term. Okay, let's put a temporary opportunity in place for the legal guardian to provide supports for 3 months. Let's see what other options are available if they're able to find additional staff during that time. There's lots of flexibility here. We really encourage families and case managers to think creatively and to brainstorm. And we've also offered, I'm happy to be a part of those conversations to brainstorm options. I know Shannon has been brought into some of those conversations to brainstorm options. We tried to make this program as flexible as possible. It's not all or nothing, right? So it's not the legal guardian has to provide supports or one of the other options have to provide supports. You can absolutely split, divide, and look at different ways to make this work. There may be a family that thinks this is the best option, and then it starts only to find out, you know what, this isn't really working out, right? My loved one isn't getting the community access that they were getting before. This is a lot of work. I'm not sure I can maintain this, right? Those are all things that are absolutely natural and are things that just need to be communicated to the case manager so we can look at other creative options. You reminded me, Michael, we did finally post information on the website. So I want to share that information because one of the things that we posted as part of this program on the website is we had a working group put together forward-facing, family-friendly guides on this new program. Those guides were also vetted and reviewed by a family group. And we really hope that the fact sheets come across as easily understandable, easily accessible, but accurate in providing details around some of the complex pieces of this program. One of the things that we really tried to articulate clearly was the respite component. So I'm just going to share my screen for one moment. I know, Pam, you have your hand up. Just give me one more moment. I'm going to share the new web page, just so you guys can take a quick look at it. And then obviously I put one link in the chat. I'll put another one in the chat as well, so you can explore it on your own and then reach out to me with any questions. So this is our web page. If you go under supports and services and then, access to supports, you go to our access to supports page. If you scroll down a little bit, we have a whole section on legal guardians and parents as paid caregivers. This section is really brief, right? Not a lot of information, but if you click on the link, it's going to bring you to a larger page. It's a little content heavy. We need some pictures. We'll get them up there eventually. And this information starts to provide family-friendly, forward-facing information on the program. So there are 2 PDFs, and these are fact sheets. These are family-friendly fact sheets. These were the fact sheets that were also vetted by the family groups. They're in English and Spanish. And they provide a really nice overview and summary of the program. We have one for legal guardians looking to provide supports, and we also have one for parents looking to provide some supports, because they're a little bit different in how the criteria is provided. So I would absolutely appreciate the council to take a look at all of this, provide us with feedback. If there's places that we can improve, let us know. This went up today, so it is fresh. So we're absolutely looking for feedback, and please don't hesitate to shoot me an email if you see some places where we can improve. The other thing I just want to mention very briefly is we have a very quick frequently asked questions at the bottom. After doing a few of these forums, I started to see sort of a trend in questions coming in. We wanted to make sure that those questions were answered to others that had the same questions. So there's a few frequently asked questions right here at the bottom that we hope address just sort of the general questions we were receiving every time we had this conversation. My contact information is on this as well, so please don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything we can do to improve it, or if there's more information that you think would be helpful up on the website. Michael, it seems like that Facebook group that you were mentioning might benefit from taking a look at this as well. Appreciate it. Pam, I'm so sorry. I know you've had your hand up for a while.
No, it's fine. My dog ran away, so it was probably good timing. Pam Donner, I'm a council member. My question has to do with, many of the families that I know of also have CFC funding for personal care. And so it would seem that it would be wonderful if they could be reimbursed for a lot of the personal care. So does this extend to CFC services?
So Pam, that is a fantastic question, and it is absolutely a question that we get all of the time. This program does not extend to CFC. CFC is a DSS program. It is a state plan program. And right now, they do not have the ability to compensate legal guardians or parents of school-age children. They would have to make a state plan amendment to make that change. My understanding is they have not moved forward with that. I will say they have gotten this question as well, right? I think what you just articulated, Pam, is the question that we're receiving from a lot of families who have duly funded supports, right? CFC supports and DDS supports. So this is absolutely a question that they've received. I know that they're looking into it, but that is not something that I believe they've moved forward with at this time. Commissioner.
Thank you, Krista. Jordan Sheff, Commissioner DDS. As you all know, the DSS Commissioner is Andrea Barton-Reeves. She knows our families well, having been the prior executive director at HARC and been involved in the community in all sorts of ways. DSS is closely monitoring our success with this. It's a big shift from CMS, who, has us, who brought EVV to us because of their concerns about waste, fraud, and abuse, and in part because of some employees of record and some families and guardians who did that big wet blanket thing over all the rest of the families. A few bad eggs spoil the bunch, or whatever that expression is. So they're closely monitoring, and if we are successful, and I'm sure we will be, they are likely to mimic some of what we put in place to do similar things, because they have other self-determined programs there besides CFC, within some of their other supports and services in ABI, I believe, and I also think, and I could be wrong, or they are headed that way. But self-hired supports is the direction CMS is pushing a lot of our LTSS services too. So I imagine somewhere down the line, as we gain traction, they'll follow suit. But it'll be a little bit of a waiting game. But we're gonna prove that this works. Thank you, Krista.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions? I'm going to throw my contact information in the chat. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to assist with GTI related questions, questions about the paid family caregiver initiative, anything that I can be of assistance of, please don't hesitate. It was really nice being here today and nice seeing some faces I haven't seen in quite a long time. Hope everyone is well. Thank you.
Patty Silva, Council Chair. Thank you so much, Krista, for that information. We really appreciate it. Does anybody have any other comments or questions? Jordan, do you have your hand up again, or is that Legacy?
No, that's a fresh hand. I just want to say thank you to Krista myself. When I talk about having amazing staff that gave me the confidence to be away for so long, I'm talking about ladies like her, and she's just unbelievable. Her ability, how much she can produce, how incredibly knowledgeable she is. I don't know anyone else who can digest the complicated gobbledygook that comes from the legislature or CMS and make it clear to all those around her in a matter of moments, or divine that it's a complete mess and makes no sense and let us know that before we start to waste our time. She's a blessing upon DDS, and we are very grateful to have her.
Thank you. And Patty Silva, Council Chair. Adrian, you have your hand up.
Hi, Adrian Benjamin, council member. I really have to go, and I know it's late. I'll just let everyone know there is an opportunity for federal legislation that will help our direct support professionals actually become professionals. It's too complicated. It's very wonky stuff, but basically between now and August 12th, everyone will need to send an email to their congressperson and senator. But I will send you the info so you know what in God's name you're talking about, the name of the bill, how it will help DSPs and all that. So it's to help professionalize them and get more data on them, to help build the profession, stop having them be overlooked and underpaid. It's a positive step, but I can't explain it all now. And I'll send you the link, so look for it. And sometimes between now and August 12th, just send a quick email to your rep. There's a way to do that. It's not that hard. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you for everything.
Bye, Adrian.
Bye, Adrian. Okay,
Late
Patty,
for another meeting.
Patty Silva, Council Chair. So if there were no more questions for Kristen, I think she might be gone already. So that was a great presentation. If you have any questions, she put her email address up there as well too. So next on our agenda is topics for future meetings. We have services, residential options for highest lawn individuals. Maybe Jordan, once you and Nicole talk, maybe there might be more information to share on that at some point. And our next meeting isn't until September 19th. So we have some time in between that. So I don't know if anything, would be covered under your discussions that might be helpful with that topic.
Jordan Sheff, DDS Commissioner. Nicole and I have already been trying to plot out a time to meet in August. So we're pretty productive when we meet, and I hope that she and I can have sort of move forward and let you know one way or the other what we can share in September or not.
Great, okay, thank you. And then we also have resource management. I don't remember what that was really about. There was also quality review with Krista / Josh. This was kind of like our working list. So if there's something there that jumps out, oh, go ahead, Jordan.
So thank you, Jordan Chef, Commissioner DDS. When I presented on a panel discussion at NASD's, the National Association of State Developmental Disability Directors, the attention was really focused on Pennsylvania and Connecticut and the work that we are doing on that's really behind the scenes. It's not very public facing, but some really powerful tools that stems from the 2014 OIG audit on critical incident detection and reporting that the company that we work with has now added to that product in all sorts of amazing ways. And I'm hoping by September or October, we could, Josh Scalora and I together are presenting in Baltimore in August on this subject again at the Home and Community-Based Services National 5-Day Conference. And the company submitted an opportunity to present there. CMS and Advancing States said only if Connecticut comes and talks about their experience. So when I say we're getting eyes, it's true. I would love to show you what we have quietly been investing some serious time in that I think does something really extraordinary. And I don't enter into saying these words lightly. This software will help us save time, money, and lives. And it's unequivocal in the work that we've done there. And it harnesses the power of Medicaid claims data connected to all of the other data sources we have throughout the state of Connecticut and within DDS. And I would love to show that off a little to you because it doesn't get a lot of fanfare, but I think that it will be the standard for many states around the country. And in fact, they incorporated loosely a requirement in the latest round of waiver assurances through the access rule that they've recently published that indicate people need to follow what we're doing. So I'd like you to hear about it as you talk to your friends and around the country who are advocates as well and want to know why Connecticut's the very best. This is part of it, and I'd love to show it to you. So that's the quality piece.
Okay. That doesn't have anything to do with Pulse Light, does it?
That is Pulse Light.
Pulse Light. Okay. So those would be the two together. Okay.
Yep.
So would that be something you'd be prepared to do in September or?
Yeah,
Maybe
yes. I will work
Yes.
to make sure we can share something. I may ask the vendor themselves, since we're already under contract with them, to see if they would like to participate in that. Their data scientist is a brilliant lady, and their CEO and I have been partnering on thought leadership around the country in advancing protections for people with disabilities. So we will work to get something together for September. Josh will kill me, but yes.
And if not, October's okay too. All right. Okay, very good. So, is there anything else that anybody would have wanted to hear about coming up for September in case Jordan's gets pushed to October or? Anybody? All right. Well, why don't we go with that for now? And in the meantime, Diana and I will work on reviewing the bylaws and getting that information to Kevin. And I hope that everybody enjoys their August off and stays cool and does something fun. And again, thank you to Jordan for sharing your wonderful news. And it's so refreshing to have so many good things to talk about. So thank you for that. And if anybody else has anything to say or before we sign off? Yes. All right, Bella does. Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion to, Shannon, did you want to say something? Okay. Somebody
She
want to
just wanted to say hi to Bella.
I wanted to say hi to Bella.
Bella. Hey, Bella. Come here. You want to say hi? You got to be quick. We're signing off. Come here, quick, quick, quick.
Hi, Bella.
Come say hi. Really quick, okay?
Hi,
Hi,
Bella.
Bella. Happy summertime to you.
Yeah, she leaves for
Bye.
camp on Sunday. 2 weeks.
Oh, how exciting.
Yay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay,
Yeah.
guys, does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Oh.
Okay, Christine. And is there a second? Michael. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, everybody
Aye.
have a wonderful August. Motion passes and enjoy your families, okay?
Thank you.
Thank
Happy
you, everybody.
summer.
Yes, happy summer. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.